Okay, this is video number 23 in the playlist that's devoted to the Surface tab of the 3D Experience CATIA generative shape design application. The icon that we're going to be discussing is still the sweep icon, and the type of profile is explicit, which means we actually draw that, and then the subtype is reference surface. However, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the optional selection uh, of what appears in the dialog box. Okay, in video 22, we looked at the mandatory selections, and here we're going to look at the optional selections. Although we may not be able to look at all of them, but we'll see. So the ribbon at the bottom of the screen in generative shape design looks like this. And if you select the surface tab, you have access to sweep. And when you click on the sweep, which is one of the advanced icons, this dialog box opens up. And uh, notice that we did not discuss these things, which are just optional elements, in video 22. Now we're going to discuss these. So let me remind you that there are 21 different choices altogether. Uh, for example, for the explicit, which is the first one, and we're going to be looking at it right now, there are 3 choices with reference surface, with 2 guide curves, and with pulling direction. What we're doing now is this reference surface, and we're going to be looking at these. Okay. The geometry that I'm going to look at is first something like that. It's at the bottom. There is a profile here in the XZ plane, and there is a guide curve in the YZ plane. So this is a three-dimensional view. But if you look at the dimensions, in case you want to repeat these things, they appear here in the drawing. Now, after I do this, I'm going to create a surface also. And how I'm going to do that is by extruding this, for example, profile, extruding this guide in a certain direction, and we use the normal to that as the normal to reference surface. Okay. Some aspects of the CATIA V5 version of this kind of a tutorial can be found in these links. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. All right, so I am in the generative shape design. First, let me do the supposedly the guide curve. So on this vertical plane, which happens to be the YZ plane, I will sketch that guide that you saw, and it looks like this. It starts here, straight line, turns into a circle, and we're going to dimension it in just a minute. Okay. So the angle between this line and the horizontal axis is cancel that. Let me actually give this length first. Got stuck here. So this is 56. All right, 56. Okay, and then this angle. So I'm going to do the angle now. This dimension, that horizontal axis. This is 15 degrees. All right, and the radius here is 16. This radius is 16 millimeters. All right, so there's my profile, exit. Now in this vertical plane, namely in the XZ plane, I will draw my profile. My profile is half a circle, like that, and we're going to dimension it in a minute. Okay, so the radius of this is 10, and the distance from this point, you see now, distance from this point to the origin is 10. Exit. So what you see here is what was shown in this slide. This is a three-dimensional version. The dimensions are all drawn correctly, and we're going to go back to 3D experience. Okay, so we want to create our surface, swept surface. So here's the surface tab. Here is get the sweep. Remember, profile type is explicit. The subtype is the first one, namely with reference surface. Now, profile is this, and for guide curve, I'm going to select that thing. Now, notice that right now, there is no, whatever I pick here, the default surface, which is called the mean plane, is taken, which also leads to the spine. So look, when I select this, a reference surface has been taken called mean plane, and whatever I took as the guide curve also ended up there. Okay, the spine as the spine. All right, now let's see if it actually works. So preview. There we are. Now notice that this reference plane. Let me zoom in a little bit. That mean plane, default reference plane is this. It took this by default. Okay. One can think about it as the plane that best represents the spine, and because the spine is the same as the guide curve, the plane that best represents the spine is actually that plane, which is that will be the YZ plane. Now let's check a few things. We say, okay, no problem. There we are. Let's do another one. I'm going to hide this. I'm going to hide that. Let's do another one. Sweep. So the profile is right there. And for the guide curve, I select this. And for this, the surface, instead of the default, I'm going to select the YZ. And I don't anticipate a big difference. There. It is actually will be pretty much the same. It is the same. Okay. Because it looks like that reference plane that was taken, the default was in fact the YZ. Okay. So, yeah, good. Say okay. I'll come back to those optional elements later on in a minute. So let me hide this. Let's go ahead and do another one. So here's the profile. Here's the guide curve. Again, the default is taken. Now I'm going to take that to be XZ plane now, this time. And preview. Definitely there's a problem. And you can see what happens because there seems to be some twist in this. You can see that. I mean, it's kind of hard to say, how did this end up with that? Okay. But here's what we're going to do. Now we go to some of these optional things. First of all, notice that there's something says fill twisted area. Let me uncheck that. Let me uncheck it. And review. Didn't help. Okay. You can actually see it showed me something, but it did actually try to fill this, and it got zapped basically. So what I'm going to do now is this thing called see that remove cutter planes on preview. So I select this and preview, and there we are. Okay. So that area in between, if you cut it, and if I say fill twisted area, it's going to cause a problem, right? But if I say, okay, don't fill twisted area, and basically remove the cutters, it shows you something. Now, you might say, well, I don't want this piece. Okay, so what I'm going to do is the following. Here we have uh, uh, this is called setback. Okay, so I can select these green things, which are the cutters, like that one, and move it, and now preview. Okay, to another one. See, this is on the wrong side. That's the problem. I don't want it. So this doesn't go any further than that. Yeah. If I don't want this piece, what I'm going to do is the following. I'm going to say, okay, so let me move this thing all the way to the end. Preview, gone. Okay. These lines, these green lines are the cutter lines. And what I did, I moved this all the way to the end. So it eliminated that cutter area basically. And then we say, okay, right there. Okay. If you go back here, if you go back here and you say, okay, fill the twisted area, it's going to come back and say I can't do it because remember that caused all the problems. Okay. All right. But if you don't fill the twisted area, you're going to get that. Now you can also move the cutter this way. So if I select this cutter and move it like that, and then say preview, it only does this. Okay. Uh, Cancel that. Now let's double click on this one more time. There's also something called this angle. See that angle? Let me change this thing to 15 degrees. Preview. It kind of twisted things by 15 degrees. Now, if you don't see it, let's make this thing maybe more. Let me 60. Okay, you can see that it's turning things around, rotating this thing. But unfortunately, it's kind of hard to see what's going on because of the complexity of this surface. Say, okay, let's put it back to 0. Let me actually do a minus 30. Preview it. Yeah. See, it's rotating this thing around. Let me put it back to 0. This is what I had originally. Let's actually make it a little bit, not too much, but maybe let's look at the view from an angle we can control things. So let me go ahead to, let me cancel that. View from the, let's look at it from the front. I don't know whether it's the right or the front. Let's look at which one we want. So front is like that. No. Let's go to the right one. And then fit it. Okay, now it's easier to see what's going on when we rotate. So we go here and change that thing to 15. Preview. See that it twisted it. So let's make it 30 degrees. It's rotating. Seems that it's rotating something about the vertical axis. Let me cancel that. And the isometric view. Okay, good. There is also something called, we will come back and do more of these later on with surfaces that one can see better because this is turning on itself. It's kind of difficult to see what's going on. There's also this thing called relimiters. So right now, I didn't select it, but let me go ahead and select this. And if you look at it, you can select a point. You can select a point on the guide. So I'm going to select this guide, this point, say OK. And for the other one, create a point on this curve, which is my guide, up to that point. So I'm limiting the view or the lofting, it's not the view, the lofting or the sweeping between these two limits. So preview, say okay, preview. See, it only shows you this because of the positions that is selected for the relimiting points, which means relimiting planes basically. Now, if you don't want this thing, you go back to clear selection, and the same thing here, clear selection, and preview, get the whole thing back. Okay. Yeah, so it's kind of messy, and when the surfaces are complicated, you can't see what's going on. So before we stop this, let me go ahead and do the following. Let me go and extrude this a guide curve to get a surface. So I'm going to go to surface, and I'm going to extrude this. Okay, let me make it mirror extend, and let me make it a little bit bigger, maybe 100. That was too much. Let me make it 30. Okay, so here's the situation. You have a surface here. You have a surface here. Instead of that guide, so I'm going to hide this last sweep, hide that. Now we're going to go and do one more. So sweep that profile along this guide, but for the surface, I don't want to take the default one. I'm going to select this this surface that I created. Preview, and it looks like it's just following that without any issues. Yep, excellent, good. Say okay. Let me do another one. Let me hide this, hide this. Let me go and draw another curve on that same vertical plane, on that vertical plane. I'll sketch. Let me draw, let's make it we'll make it a spline. Exit. Let me extrude that. Mirror extent. It looks good. Okay. Maybe I make this thing 30. Okay, let's try to do it again. So I'm going to hide this other swept surface. Not swept, sorry, the extruded surface. So I have a surface here. I'm going to go to surface, sweep your profile. Okay, your guide curve. And for instead of the default mean plane, I'm going to select the this surface as the reference surface. Select it and then preview. I'm sure it's going to be, well, it's not going to do it. Simple as that. So you say okay. Right, let's go back. Cancel that. Let me go to that spline. Make it more friendly. Exit. Okay. Try it again. A sweep. Surface. Sweep the profile, which is that circle. The guide, that's this fellow. Oh, yeah, I select this guide. There's no problem. I can also select that guy, that as the guide, but I don't want to do that. And then for reference surface, I select this. Probably error message. Yeah, good. But if I do select instead of sketch 1, if I select that fellow, uh, sketch 3, probably it'll be okay. Yeah, yeah. See that? This stuff is hard, very difficult to predict. In simple cases, that when I say simple cases, when intuitively you think it's going to do something, the geometry is so that you think it's going to do something, probably it's going to work. But that doesn't do its job all the time. All right, we'll do more of these later on.